This is a First Choice Super Channel feature presentation. Rated R by Primetime Magazine. The following program contains scenes of violence and coarse language. Viewer discretion is advised.
What up, Mike? Toronto. VK on the beat. Check. I'm in Toronto where you wanna get the city love. I'm from Toronto where you wanna get the city love. I'm in Toronto like we wanna get the city love. My city love me back for my city love. I'm in Toronto.
Welcome. Welcome to episode 1174 of Toronto Mic'd. Proudly brought to you by Great Lakes Brewery. Order online for free local home delivery in the GTA. StickerU.com. Create custom stickers, labels, tattoos, and decals. Palma Pasta. Fresh, homemade Italian pasta and entrees. The Yes, We Are Open podcast. A Moneris podcast production. The Advantaged Investor podcast from Raymond James Canada. RecycleMyElectronics.ca. Committing to our planet's future means properly recycling our electronics of the past. Ridley Funeral Home. Pillars of the community since 1921. Canna Cabana. The lowest prices on cannabis, guaranteed. And Sammy Cone Real Estate. Ask Sammy any real estate questions at sammy.cone@properlyhomes.ca. Joining me today for Christmas Crackers Volume 5 is Retrontario's own FOTM Hall of Famer, Ed Conroy.
Merry Christmas, Mike.
Merry Christmas, Ed, to you and your family. Great to see you, man. These Christmas Cracker episodes are like my favorites of the year. Thanks for doing this again in 2022.
Well, it's my absolute pleasure. I think what's shocking is it feels like we did the last one 5 minutes ago.
That's because you've been playing it over and over again, right. Revisiting those great memories. Hey, on that note, I actually, I had to take a week or so off of having in-studio guests as I recovered from the dreaded COVID-19. So this happened fairly recently. I know, I think I've recovered, although I was choked up when I was uttering my first word of that intro. But anyways, we'll fix that in post. Ha, ha, ha. But okay. So I'm like, I want to drop some episodes that I'm not recording with people. And then I happen to have this great thing from Gare Joyce and David Schultz and these cats where we recorded this every spring a parade down Bay Street thing. And I kind of packaged that up. And then I realized in 2018, you came on my program and we did our Christmas Crackers, volume whatever it was, 2 or whatever. And then you paid tribute to the voice, Mark Daly. And it was the most beautiful tribute. You got very emotional during this. And it was almost like, it was too amazing to be embedded in an episode that maybe some goofball's going to skip because it's Christmas Crackers. It needed a light shone upon it. And I made it its own standalone episode. And that thing's been going nuts. The people are loving your tribute to Mark Daly.
Oh, that's amazing to hear. And I remember that session well in your studio. It was emotional. And it is emotional. I mean, he passed away in December. So I feel like every Christmas comes around and I think about it. I mean, I think about him a lot anyways, but I always think about him in December.
So I know I want to address our cold open. I want to talk about what that was and how this might be a Blue Christmas Crackers Volume 5. But I have a couple of Mark Daly clips. Maybe we can start, get right into the Crackers and then we'll catch up and then we'll get to the rest of the Crackers. But can I play this clip from 1979, Mark Daly?
Wow, just in it to win it, eh? Let's do it. Let me open my beer.
Oh.
None of the neighbors I spoke with here on Palmerston Avenue seem to know.
I'm bringing down. You know what? Well. You know what? I'm a terrible host here. I'm so excited to get to the clip. I faded it down elegantly there because I'm gonna, spark it up again. But first, you and I are gonna crack open our Great Lakes beers on the mic. So, do you want to go first, or did I miss it?
No, let me go first.
Hold okay. Can you get it on mic? Go. Tell us what
that was not a gratis GLB. That was a store-bought. Octopus Wants to Fight. My favorite.
You just spoiled it. So you're not in my TMDS studio right now. Whereabouts are you?
I wish I was, Mike, but I now live in the countryside. I live in Port Perry, a lovely little town. And as much as I wanted to come in to Toronto and be in the studio environment with you, this storm threatening to upend everything. So.
Woo. No, I know. I had a Festivus episode planned with my buddy Elvis, and that, of course, is always December 23rd. And he wrote me, and he's like, there's some weather bomb going off, and he lives in North Oshawa, and he's like, I don't think I can get there. And I'm like, well, I'm not doing it on Zoom. I'll do that with the FOTM Hall of Famer, Ed Conroy, but I'm not doing Elvis. So he's actually going to come by tonight at 7 p.m., and we're going to record the Festivus episode. But here, let me catch.
Good. Well, cheers.
So let me cheers. I have a Octopus Wants to Fight from Great Lakes. So cheers to you, buddy.
Cheers, buddy. Great to see you.
And again, like a shot out of a cannon, we're going to get to a couple of Mark Daly clips, and then I want to do a little update, and then I want to reference that cold open, and then I got a whole whack of stuff coming up here. I want to talk about Uncle Bobby. I want to talk about Coy and Vance on Dukes of Hazzard. I mean, I want to talk about Watch It, buddy, Peter Silverman. We're going to pay tribute to some people we lost, and then there's a couple of other goodies, and then I have a couple of surprises myself. So back to The Voice. This is from 1979, and then on the other side, you can give it some context.
None of the neighbors I spoke with here on Palmerston Avenue seemed to know Aquilino Torquato very well. They did know of him. He was a friendly man, always clean-shaven, always had a smile for the neighbors he did see. But something went wrong recently. A lot of arguments in this house at 590 Palmerston, and this morning, Aquilino Torquato is dead at the foot of the basement stairs. The trouble started between midnight and 1. Police responded to a noise complaint near 590 Palmerston, found nothing and left. But Constable Rick Dunford responded to another complaint a few minutes later, and it was when he started checking behind houses that he was met with a shotgun blast from the rear of 590. The standoff was on, and countless shots and a tear gas canister or two later, the man was confronted near the side door by ETF officer Douglas Clark. Clark exchanged words with the man and then fired a shot through the shroud of tear gas, and it was over. Neighbor Marilyn Tate was an eye and ear witness to the 4-hour siege.
At about 1 o'clock, we heard two loud noises which sounded like windows breaking, and that's exactly what we thought it was. We decided we would ignore it. And about 20 minutes later, just after I turned off my light, I heard another shot, and my roommate came into my room, terrified. And we saw a police car drive up, and we went outside to say, what's going on?
Aquilino L. Torquato ran this small body shop at Gladstone Avenue in Queen. It's closed today. It and his family were all he seemed to have, and according to one neighbor, when he lost his family, he apparently lost all hope. Mark Daly on Gladstone Avenue for City Pulse News.
Wow.
That's how you do it, man.
Wow. And was there a jackhammer going off?
There was a bunch of people cutting their grass. It happened in the summertime.
Wow, that's The Voice, man. And so that's City Pulse, right? 1979.
That's from a City Pulse, and let me just cue this all up because this is sort of my big exciting news of the year. I might have told you a bit about this before, but actually, I guess it was over a year ago. I did publish a piece on BlogTO that was sort of very similar to what you and I did years ago. It was sort of a roundup of Mark's career and remembering The Voice and sharing some clips. And it did quite well on BlogTO. It got shared a lot. And Mark's widow reached out to me, Kim Daly, about a year ago, and she said, "Look, I've got all these boxes of Mark's stuff, of his tapes that he was going to digitize when he retired, and they've been sitting here, for 12 years, and I don't know what I'm going to do with them. I'm going to probably throw them away unless you want them."
Wow.
So of course, are you kidding me? Yes, please. My goodness. I want them. I want to help digitize them and get all this footage to you. We had no idea really what they were. But we met up, and I mean, it was insane. It was literally hundreds and hundreds of 3/4-inch U-matic, which was the industry tape sort of in the 70s and 80s. They kind of looked like giant VHS tapes. which of course I have a player, so I was able to watch them and transfer them. But also, and probably even more incredible than that, was boxes upon boxes of audio recordings of Mark's time at CKLW, at Q107, at Chum. And so it was like his entire broadcast career, what he had curated over his lifetime, what he thought was the most important bits. And over the last year, I've been going through them and digitizing them and having my mind blown on a regular basis at the quality of stuff that he did. Even when I thought I was familiar with it, it's just tremendous work. And so I'm hoping next year to do something with this footage. I've been speaking a lot with Kim, his wife, and with some of his friends. And I think I want to put together sort of a self-financed little documentary, basically, about his life. And I want to use all this footage to do that.
And like, when I hear that story, I despise the fact that Mark Daly's no longer with us. But beyond that, like, that is a fantastic, like, wonderful story, and how Kim gets in contact with basically the person for the job. Like, you are the ideal person to entrust that library, that archive to. I can't think of a better person on the planet to get the Mark Daly tapes to than Ed Conroy, FOTM Hall of Famer. Okay, and now that you have this content, the possibility, I mean, I'm sure there's a grant or two we could get or something. Like, this is just it can be beyond a labor of love.
Well, it's funny. I mean, I've dabbled with productions, big productions, broadcast productions, theatrical productions, and I did consider that, taking it to someone else and saying, is this something you might be interested in? But frankly, my experiences have been so unpleasant working with broadcasters that I realized I want to do this thing properly. I don't really want interference. I don't really want somebody else saying it needs this or it doesn't. It's too much of that. And I think, to be honest with Mark, obviously the stuff that we love, there's the crime reporter stuff, there's the voiceover, the great movies, salacious stuff that's hilarious, but there's a lot of other stuff in there that I've come across.
Wow.
And probably the most important was when he was diagnosed with cancer, and he documented everything from literally the very first meeting he had with the doctor to just a couple of days before he died. It's all on footage.
Oh, there's a documentary there, buddy.
It's a crucial piece. And then, of course, his relationship with the Metropolitan Toronto Police Department. And, you've seen over the last, it's been happening for a long time, but the complete deterioration of trust that the public has in the police department. And it's so heartbreaking for a number of reasons. And Mark was a huge proponent of that being an important relationship. And whether it was police going into the schools and, working with kids, and there's footage of him bringing Raptors in the mid 90s into high schools in bad neighborhoods, and talking about how policemen need to be somebody that you trust, not somebody that you're afraid of. And he worked tirelessly to promote that idea, which is totally vanished. So I think that's an important thread. But yeah, there's a lot of good stuff there, and I hope I can call on you to help with a little bit of this movie that we're going to make.
When Ed Conroy calls, I accept the charges. Okay, that's a slam dunk here. So we're going to get to some more Mark Daly, but since you're talking about getting a box of tapes and going through and digitizing it, two things here. One is that I'm well aware that Chorus Entertainment is producing a CFNY documentary. Like, this is, I'm aware of, like, for example, I produced the Humble and Fred show. I know that they're getting a date in the calendar when they talk to these producers or whatever, and all these stories are being collected. I've been talking to Scott Turner and Alan Cross, etc. So it's interesting you mentioned, doing that independently, that Mark Daly thing, because my first thought was like, well, maybe Rogers, because they own City, but then I'm thinking, okay, no, this is a Retrontario labor of love. Like, let's stay out of that sticky wicket. But okay, so aside from the Chorus thing, I mentioned Humble and Fred. Just this morning, Humble Howard Glassman dropped off a box of cassette tapes from Fred Patterson's basement or attic, I don't know, stored away somewhere in his Brampton estate. And I guess you can see, no one else can see, but I got out my old tape deck and I'm,
Nice.
I'm piping it through the board here through TRRS. And I'm going to be spending some time over the next couple weeks digitizing these very old Humble and Fred tapes to see what I have there. So not quite what you've got from the Mark Daly, from Kim Daly there, but similar spirit, if you will.
Yeah, well, these radio guys are fascinating to me because this is not the first time I've been given audio material from jocks. I've got boxes of cassettes from various other people, and they're amazing. I mean, they really are. Sometimes it's just an air check, sometimes it's like a jingles compilation, but there's always something fascinating. And of course, it doesn't get quite the same love that video gets because it's just audio. But if you're a radio guy, obviously, like you are, like a lot of your listeners, that is gold, man. Gold.
No, super psyched and very, very interested in what happens with your Mark Daly material. And of course, keep me in the loop. And if I can help in any way, I'm there, buddy. That's
of course
great project.
I think the stylistic approach I would like to take is I'm kind of bored of documentaries where you see a lot of talking heads.
Yeah.
I like the idea of just archive footage with voiceover. So it's almost like a radio component. And I would like to interview you and interview Gord Martineau and people like that to talk about their memories of Mark and put that over top of all this wonderful stock footage and hopefully create something that people want to see.
It's funny you say that because that's my favorite documentary format is where you might get you can put text, sort of like the Beatles documentary, actually, the Peter Jackson thing.
Totally.
Just, show me the footage. And then if you want to put words on the screen or whatever to give things context and add a bit of detail, that's cool, but I don't need the talking heads and all that jazz. Let's go back and watch this footage. Okay, may I play? You mentioned when you talked about Mark Daly there that he would do these great promos for late great movies, etc. I re-listened to what you did for Christmas Crackers in 2018 that I recently plucked out and made it a standalone episode. And there were some great ones there, but I have two here for Rosemary's Baby. Do I just want me to just play them?
The WAV file should be probably just the audio, but it's a very, very classic Mark delivery.
Okay, I no longer know what the format was because I put it in, but I'm just gonna play this, and then I have another one too. Here we go.
Saturday from the mind of Roman Polanski.
You get friendly with an old couple like that, and we'll never get rid of them. They're right across the wall.
They turn out to be like real grandparents. It's nice to know there are people like that.
Mia Farrow is Rosemary Woodhouse, and the neighbors have something of hers.
Do you hear a baby crying?
No, I don't, dear.
Oh, God!
Be here with City, 10:30 Saturday, and pray for Rosemary's Baby.
Nobody did that better, man.
Nobody did it better. But
that guy, that famous American voiceover movie guy, in a world.
Right.
In a world. I
forget
his name.
World gone mad.
Poor bastard. But I remember he died, and people sort of said he was the best. But I'm sorry, even that clip of Rosemary's Baby, Mark Daly gave that guy a run.
Look, if you're Gen X and you're in the GTA, there's no contest here. It's the voice here. But I actually have another one that's a little different. So I'm just gonna it's my show, Ed. I'm just gonna play this.
Saturday from the mind of Roman Polanski.
You get friendly with an old couple like that, and we'll never get rid of them. They're right across the wall.
They turn out to be like real grandparents. It's nice to know there are people like that.
Mia Farrow is Rosemary Woodhouse, and the neighbors have something of hers.
Do you hear a baby crying?
No, I don't, dear.
Oh, God!
Be here with City, 10:30 Saturday, and pray for Rosemary's Baby.
No, I know I'm drinking my Great Lakes here, but those are different, right? Because when I'm listening to that now,
I think we're in a time loop already.
Is that the exact same one?
That was the exact same one, mate.
Oh, you must have sent me two
so
files.
Nice, you got to play it twice.
And here again, I love these Christmas crackers because you do send me stuff and I load it up, but we don't really talk about any of it. So it's all happening live on the floor, which is exciting.
Freestyle.
And that's what we liked about the environment, like at City TV, right? Like,
totally.
It was all like kinetic energy flying live. But I have a file here just called 1979. I don't think it's the Smashing Pumpkins
that
song.
was the Pulse one. That was the one we did off the top there.
Okay, so what I have is I have dupes of so that's why I'm all confused
I
here.
guess that's happened, yeah.
So let's do this. Let's address the cold open. What did we hear off the top of the program?
Well, again, if you're Gen X and you grew up, actually, this one was nationwide. So if you grew up in Canada in the 80s and you heard that noise coming out of your TV, you knew you were in for good times, because that meant there was a restricted movie playing on Super Channel, which was, of course, the pay TV station, our HBO, basically.
Well, before it merged with First Choice, right?
That's right. But I think they actually used that exact opening, which was a generic audio piece. I think we've talked about this before. It was on sports blooper reels and stuff. But that sort of, voice saying, extreme violence and coarse language. That one jumped out at me because I know quite a bit of the material that I sent to you for this Christmas Crackers is a little bit on the blue side of things. So I thought, well, we got to throw a bit of a warning up there. There's going to be some cussing. And that was kind of, after the Mark Daly ones, that the First Choice Super Channel warning was always my favorite. So,
well, look, there should be an additional warning that I might play every clip twice. So just consider yourself warned. Now, I don't know if you can hear it in the background because we're connecting remotely, but I have a instrumental going, Blue Christmas.
That's right, by the Ventures. That's, classic. Most people associate the track with Elvis, but I think the instrumental rockabilly version is pretty cool too. And so, yeah, I mean, we're getting up to episode 5 of Christmas Crackers. We need some good subtitles because in the future, people are going to be able to distinguish them. So we'll call this one the Blue Christmas Crackers, I think.
All right, so if you're in the car with your little ones and you don't want them to hear any bad words, you've been warned. It's going to get blue in here. Blue Christmas Crackers, Volume 5. I'll keep the Ventures in the background. Just want to check in on the Conroy family and everything. So, of course, you left the Big Smoke for Green Acres or wherever the heck you are now. How is that working out? Do you miss Toronto at all? How's it working out over there?
Well, of course, I do miss Toronto, but I get to come into Toronto quite a bit, right? So for work and, I still do a lot of work with Moses, so I'm in Liberty Village a lot. My brother and my parents still live in Scarborough, so I get to go there a lot. But man, I think I said this a year ago, I love it out here. I feel like this was my destiny to end up in small town Ontario. Probably a lot of the reason is because it's kind of like a time machine out here. It kind of feels like the 80s is still going on.
Like a Christmas story, right?
It's tell you a Christmas Story, Norman Rockwell, that kind of vibe. I spend a lot of time going through old stuff, and I love all these antique barns up here and thrift stores and church yard sales. I just found like remarkable stuff.
Amazing.
So yeah, man, my kids are great. My wife is great. We love Port Perry. I invite all your listeners to come up and check it out. A lot of Hollywood people live up here. I think, we don't want it to get too busy up here.
Other than yourself, who's the most famous person who lives in Port Perry?
Oh my goodness. Okay. Well, I'll tell you who I see quite regularly is Darth Vader. What's his name? The guy who played the young Darth Vader.
Oh, Hayden Christensen.
Hayden Christensen. Yes.
He's from Thornlea because Cam and Stu always reference him as like a graduate of Thornlea.
Of course. I mean, yeah, he was an Ontario guy, but
that's
he
big
lives
win.
up here.
That's big.
Yeah, it's crazy, man.
Like you called him Darth Vader, but I mean, Anakin Skywalker might be an easier way to build a guy because I don't know how much of Darth he was in the series. But because at first I thought you were talking about the voice of Darth Vader.
Oh,
James Earl Jones.
James Earl Jones. I wish I saw James Earl Jones in my local coffee shop, but no, I'll take Anakin. That's it's pretty cool.
No, that's cool. This is Retrontario. I
would ask him to do that too.
And then you'd have to say, can you please say, you're listening to Toronto Mic'd?
You know who used to tell a wonderful story about James Earl Jones?
Tell me.
Was my friend Jerry Agar.
Hey.
Because he was, all over the radio scene in America. And he talked about one time James Earl Jones was in one of the stations he was working at. And I guess he was a heavy cigarette smoker, James Earl Jones. And it was right around the time they told people you can't smoke cigarettes anymore inside.
Right.
And there was all these people running around saying, well, who's going to go and tell Darth Vader he can't smoke his cigarettes, and nobody had the balls to tell him, so they just let him do it. I thought that was really funny.
That's amazing. Yeah, when you're James Earl Jones, you can smoke your cigs. I think smoke that dart. All right, there's one other person. I just saw a Facebook update from her today. Ziggy Lawrence. Is she in Port Perry or is she in a different small town out your way? Do you know?
She's definitely not in Port Perry. I'll tell you, people get all these ports mixed up. I tell
sure
people
do.
I live in Port Perry. They think, oh, Port Hope.
Oh, you know what? She's probably in Port Hope. Port Hope, that's the one that Wheels' dad lived in Port Hope. Okay.
Baked into Degrassi lore. But no, I have nothing to do with Port Hope. Bless old Ziggy, though. She's, when I don't see her that often, but when I do, she's still game and hilarious,
Well, it was a very nice update. She was basic because, she had to live there for COVID, so things aren't quite, normal, but things have opened up quite a bit. And she was talking about how she had made a bunch of friends in town, and she was feeling like great about her new home, which I now think was Port Hope, not Port Perry, but one of the ports. But we've lost some good Torontonians to these ports. What can you do? Okay. I'll say I'm enjoying my Great Lakes beer. Ed, if I ever get you back in the studio, I promise you a large lasagna from Palma Pasta, buddy. I owe you lasagna, and that'll feed the whole family in Port Perry.
Well, I do miss the Palma Pasta. I will say I have not found any kind of lasagna that is on level with the Palma Pasta lasagna.
No, you have to go to Italy.
But thankfully, I can get Great Lakes Brewery beers around here, so that was something I was worried about at first, but has been allayed, right? So.
You find them in the LCBOs near you?
Actually, even in the Loblaws franchise, that's literally down the street from me.
Nice.
I get my octopus there, which is wonderful. So,
well, it's brewed for you, Ontario, and enjoy responsibly there. Okay, so we've talked about Mark Daly. Another, I would say we're doing some greatest hits here today. Another gentleman we love to talk about when we're together is Uncle Bobby.
Yes, sir. I have some wonderful Uncle Bobby updates for you.
Well, should I start with just the Clickety Clack Express song, and then we can...
Yeah, why not?
Why the heck not, right? So let's do this.
I hope you have a nice day, because right now it's over to the Clickety Clack Express. Here they are.
If you wanna go clickety clack, come along with me down the trickety track. Just don't ask me where we're going, 'cause the fun is never knowing where we're going till we get there on the Clickety Clack Express.
The Clickety Clack Express. Love it.
You remember that part of it or not?
Not too much. When I was listening, I was thinking, will I remember this? No, I'm more of a Bimbo the birthday clown.
Bimbo. Yeah, I mean, look, it's a funny thing because, we've talked about this many times. Uncle Bobby, this white whale, so hard to source any material from it. It's all gone. Bimbo the Birthday Clown was the main song, I think the main skit that everybody remembered. But when that ended up on YouTube, probably quite early in the YouTube era, probably in I want to say 2006, 2007, the number one thing you would see underneath the video of Bimbo is people saying, well, who's got Clickety Clack Express? Like, where the fuck is Clickety Clack Express?
And you found it.
Well, after all these years, finally it turned up, and it was it wasn't every show like Bimbo, but it was on at least 2 or 3 times a week.
Okay.
And it was this really, really low budget puppet show. I mean, kind of like depressingly low budget. And clearly one person wasn't Bobby Ash, was operating all of these different characters on the train, and they're all really terrifying, including the face of the train, which kind of turns around and looks at the other.
Well, I used to be afraid of the Mr. Rogers puppets, like back in the day.
They're totally that. Because
they're not soft on the eyes, so to speak. They're kind of jagged and scary. Like I always felt like there was a King Friday and
totally
Daniel Tiger or whatever.
Children's puppets and puppeteers, and another friend of your show, a friend of mine, and the great Nina Keogh. I love talking with her about that, because puppeteers are very protective, of course, of these things. And
right.
when you start saying, well, these puppets were scaring kids, you know, it's it's a weird dichotomy. But anyways, Clickety Clack was on, let's say, the list of things I always hoped to come upon,
wow.
you know, with really, frankly, any Uncle Bobby content. But I got this wonderful email out of the blue at the beginning of the summertime from this guy who said, I was just on your website and I saw that you are looking for Uncle Bobby stuff. And I have a videotape, or it wasn't even a VHS. It was a Betamax tape that is just full of Uncle Bobby episodes.
Wow.
Do you want, do you want it? And it was like, oh,
hook it to my veins,
God.
He says. Yeah.
I know. I mean, I get a lot of these things, Mike, but that one, of course, jumped out of the screen and just whacked me in the head. But it got better because, of course, I wrote him back right away. And I was like, yeah, what are you doing right now? Can we meet like halfway? And then it turned out he actually lived in Oshawa, which is super close to where I was, like literally south of where I am. Then the coup de grace was that he was the son of Meredith Cutting, who is the last surviving cast member of Uncle Bobby. He was the son of the singing policeman.
Wow. Okay, so can I play the singing policeman here?
Yeah.
Okay, let's listen.
Here's Murd, and Murd's got his guitar. We call him Murd. His proper name is Meredith Cutting, and Meredith is going to sing his songs just for you. What's the first one, Meredith?
Well, Jeffrey talked about bridges, and I think I'll talk about bridges.
Okay, you sing about bridges?
Yeah,
okay.
Why not?
Here we go. Murd is his first song.
Thanks, Uncle Bobby.
Oh, a bridge is a thing that takes you from here to there. Yes, a bridge is a thing that takes you from here to there. It might be made of sticks, it might be made of stones, it might be made of blocks or steel. Yes, a bridge is a thing that takes you from here to there. It may cross a river, it may cross a lake, it may just cross thin air. Oh, a bridge is a thing that takes you from here to there. And you know, back in history, one of the most popular bridges and famous bridges of all time was in old London town in England. And it started to fall down and crumble. And the people wrote a song about it. And it was called London Bridge is falling down, falling down, falling down. London Bridge is falling down, my fair lady. London Bridge is falling down, falling down, falling down. London Bridge is falling down, my fair lady. Build it up with sticks and stones, sticks and stones, sticks and stones. Build it up with sticks and stones, my fair lady. Oh, London Bridge is falling down, falling down, falling down. London Bridge is falling down, my fair lady. Build it up with bricks and steel, bricks and steel, bricks and steel. Build it up with bricks and steel, my fair lady. London Bridge is falling down, falling down, falling down. London Bridge is falling down, my fair lady. Oh, a bridge is a thing that takes you from here to there. Yes, a bridge is a thing that takes you from here to there.
Yes. Funny thing, you know, Murd, talking about London Bridge, in the end, it did fall down, but it didn't fall down on its own.
No.
It was knocked down and brought to America and rebuilt here in America. See if you can find out where it is. Now we've got
Uncle Bobby dropping the fun facts. I have so much to say about that. First of all, you know, Jerry Agar would have truncated that. He would have faded that down after 10 seconds and had you come in. But I'm like, no, I want to hear.
It out. Yeah.
You know, it took us this long to get a Meredith Cutting song on Toronto Mic. I'm like, we're playing this 3-minute song in its entirety. I liked how he interloped to London Bridges into his bridge song. Like, you know, a bridge is what gets you from here to there. Like, wow.
Mixmaster Cutting. He was a fascinating guy. Again, I don't know if you remember, but I definitely remembered the singing policeman because he was in his police uniform with an acoustic guitar. And he was doing these kind of weird folk songs on Uncle Bobby, which again, the Uncle Bobby stew of weird shit. That was just part of it, right? There was a policeman, Big John, who would be talking about safety, but then there was this other policeman who was singing songs. And so, I didn't know that he was still alive. So it was amazing that his son got in touch with me and said, "Oh, my dad would love to speak with you.
Wow.
And he really wants you to have this tape." And the origin of the tape is even funnier and part of the Uncle Bobby mythos, if you will, that when they were showing it back in the day, it was so ghetto at CFDO, they wouldn't notify people when things were repeated and they were due basically a little paycheck for their appearance. It was up to you to basically see if you were on that episode that was being repeated, and then you would send in an invoice to CFDO and get your $5 or whatever. So poor Meredith Cuttings, I guess it was his wife, would record Uncle Bobby every day, and they would go through it and see was there a Meredith Cutting like stinging policeman scene, and then they would send this invoice at the end of the week, and they would tape over it. It was like people that recorded soap operas or whatever. At the end of the week, okay, we've checked all those, and they go back and do it again. So this was the final tape that had survived all these years.
Wow. And we thought they were cheap Sons of Guns at City TV, but this is next level. Come on.
No, I know. It was like sad but happy because that was how this tape survived, right? I mean, if they had just automatically done it, there wouldn't have been this tape.
No, good point.
Yeah, it was a really strange, like funny and sad story. But
like a rose is growing from the cracks in the concrete here. I love it. No, absolutely.
Totally.
Now, so you had this conversation with Meredith Cutting. I have a bit of it here. Should I play it now? Then we can find out about how that went.
Well, yeah. So I ended up. Of course, I took a little bit of back and forth with his son, but eventually I said, look, I really would love to interview your dad, not, from a podcast kind of perspective, just for historical, research reasons. Like, I mean, you don't have to tell him he's the last guy standing. And so I interviewed him extensively, for I want to say probably about an hour and a half. And it was just me probably being obnoxious, asking a lot of questions, but he would go off on tangents and it was all really incredible stuff. So I sent you this one little excerpt, which it was just so good because again, it was like a bomb of like, oh my God. So yeah, let's play that.
When Bobby Ash came to Canada, he was a Shakespearean actor and he couldn't get work anywhere. And he was hired by CBC as Bimbo the Clown. And when he got his own show with CFTO, he made Bimbo in his alter ego. Bobby was only about 5 foot tall. He was very short, but Bimbo was almost 7 feet tall. And that's where that came from.
So that was the joke, that it was a taller version.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. That's really funny. I did not know about that.
Not many people knew about that as far as how Bimbo came to be.
And what about, did you know much about Uncle Bobby also being a bus driver at the same time?
Oh, yeah. He owned a double-decker bus, and he also drove a school bus.
All right, Ed, I got to ask you right now. Did you ask Meredith Cutting about Uncle Bobby's way with the moms?
Oh, no, I didn't. It wasn't, I mean, it was on my mind a couple times, but he was very old school.
He was proper, and you're not, I know how you feel.
Above board, and he was a policeman. And I I mean, his whole origin story was insane. Like, he played in Yorkville in that famous sort of hippie place where, Dylan had played, and
Neil Young, Joni Mitchell. All
yes,
these cats.
What's it called? The upper boat or something?
The riverboat.
Riverboat. Yeah. So Singing Policeman has a crazy origin story of his own. And we talked a lot about that and how he ended up, being on television.
Wow.
And it was basically because he was a member of the Metropolitan Toronto Police, but he was also performing in this bar in Scarborough, which I remembered as a kid, it was known as a cop bar. Like it was a bar where the police would go and get hammered at night. And he apparently got in trouble because it's like, you're not allowed, you can be a policeman or you can be a folk singer. You can't be both. And he thought that was the end of his career as a policeman. So he went to CFDO and said, can I get on, I forget what it was called, one of their sort of folksy live music shows. They had a whole bunch of them at the time. And they sort of said, we like your demo, but you're not quite ready for what, Abbey Road Singers or whatever it was called.
Yeah.
So you can go on Uncle Bobby. So it was like, okay, I'll do it on Uncle Bobby. So yeah, he just an amazing guy. I really want to connect you to him because I think he would be a great guest if you ever want to do an episode like that. My conversation with him, like I said, I was trying to be very, above board, not ask him.
Ed, I totally get it because this happens to me sometimes. Somebody, if they're especially an older person and they're very proper, you can't go ask him about Uncle Bobby banging the kids' moms.
Right.
And if the van's a rocking, don't come a knocking or whatever, like the school bus is rocking. And I mean, again, just to be clear here, we're always glad that this story is about the moms. Okay, this is
right. Exactly.
These are the moms, everybody. Okay.
I think that's the thing with Uncle Bobby, and it always comes up, is that people misconstrue all of this stuff because they hear about a guy in England and they think that it was somehow untoward, and they hear about Fergie Ulver and all that shit,
and that super cut,
and it all mixes up in their mind.
100%.
That Uncle Bobby was bad.
I have defended Uncle Bobby on several occasions and reminding everyone we are talking about consenting adults here. Okay.
Oh no, 100%. And there might have been a couple of scotches involved, and
as was the style at the time, right? Absolutely.
Exactly. And final note on Uncle Bobby though.
I have another clip
for
too.
The moment. Yeah. Oh yeah, right. We got
Bimbo, the
Bimbo OG,
the 7-foot Bimbo.
Well, that can see us out. But another hilarious thing was the son of the singing policeman, Mike Cutting. He's an amazing guy too, and he's a policeman. He's an actual legit policeman serving, I think, in 52 Division.
Okay.
And when he was a kid, he would obviously go on the set at CFTO because his old man was on there, and he sent me this wonderful photograph of him with 2E. And I don't know if you remember, 2E was the Star Wars, like the R2D2 ripoff that they put in the final season of the Uncle Bobby show when it was renamed Kids Corner. And it's funny because we've talked a little bit about this over the years about how Uncle Bobby was this powerhouse thing and it was on for so long. But when you got to 1980, the brass at CFDO are looking at it. They're like, this shit is a little bit too old fashioned for us. We need to bring it up, bring it into the 80s. So they retooled it. They changed the name. It was no longer the Uncle Bobby Show. It was now called Kids Corner. And they introduced a robot who basically looked like a CFDO R2D2 called 2E.
Wow.
And when he was telling me this story, I always say to people that don't know what Uncle Bobby is, I compare it to Krusty the Clown from Simpsons.
Right.
Because it's like the best analogy, right? It's this hard drinking guy who's already like, when Simpsons started in 89, even shows like Krusty the Clown, it was like old hat even then. But the 2E and the Kids Corner thing is basically Poochie, right? It's the Poochie episode. It's like, what are we going to do to
the extreme
be down with the kids in the 80s? They're into Star Wars, so let's get a robot on there. And unfortunately, nobody has any clips of that. That's the new White Whale, right?
That's the new
it's
one.
No longer clickety.
But we know this from you always need your white whale. Like who is Ed Conroy without a white whale? Right? You need it. Okay.
No, you're right.
So a couple of things here, because of course I have to take us on a couple of quick tangents, but there's an episode I recorded in 2022 that is custom made for you, Ed Conroy. It features Mimico resident Roger Christian. He came over and talked about how he won the Academy Award for the first Star Wars because he designed the lightsaber, the Millennium Falcon, and R2-D2.
Wow. How do I not know about this? Why didn't you send this to me?
I don't know how come you're not subscribed to Toronto Mike, okay? It should be coming to you. And here's a kicker. Here's the kicker, because you mentioned Fergie Ulver. Roger Christian in my backyard telling these amazing stories. And again, he lives in Mimico now, so he literally, I guess he could have walked, but he drove. That's another story. But he is in his 80s. But he was joined by founder of Just Like Mom, Paul Burford. So Paul Burford from Just Like Mom, whose son, by the way, is a children's entertainer, Broccoli from Sunshine and Broccoli. So Paul, and shout out to Tim Herron, who is Paul's driver, and he always drives Paul here, and that's great. So Paul Burford, Roger Christian, the greatest episode recorded in my backyard studio on a lovely summer day here in New Toronto.
And were you? Was this one of the instances where you felt bad about asking these old boys about the sexual exploitation of?
Well, I didn't have a lot of sex stuff lined up. It was, for Star Wars, but
no, not Star Wars. Just Like Mom.
Oh no, I definitely talked about the supercut with Paul Burford. He's disgusted.
Yeah, what was his take on?
He's disgusted by it. He says, although he's drifted
out of context.
He says completely out of context. He says nothing untoward ever happened with Fergie Ulver. I got the same story from Kate Wheeler, by the way, who worked closely on Just Like Mom. They're all disgusted by the supercut, all out of context, slowed down with that music, and I could take a supercut of Ed Conroy on Toronto Mike and make you out to sound pretty fucking.
I don't know about that.
Okay,
look, I agree that it is. It's unfortunate, and it's really to the point. I'm sure I've told you this before, where if I ever post anything to do with Just Like Mom,
right,
it ends up being totally overtaken by comments about that.
Sure.
And his daughter, or one of his daughters, is a follower of Retrontario, and she will often say, Ed, can you please take that down? And so, I mean, I don't even go there anymore because it's always.
Is this the daughter who works on the shopping channel?
It is, I believe, yes.
Okay. Again, remember, her mom was like Miss Canada.
Yes. Yeah.
It's like, anyway, I will.
Royalty.
I think that it's quite the leap to watch that supercut and decide that Fergie Ulver is a pedophile. Like, I mean, I'll just say it. I don't play that game. I think it is unfair to the man, and there's some benefit of the doubt he deserves here. Is that a hot take?
It's a hot take, man. And I don't want to, we always end up going off on these huge, long Fergie Ulver tangents. But I think ultimately, I haven't looked at that thing in a while, but probably the biggest issue is that he's saying to kids, if you want this prize, or if you want this thing, then you have to do this for me.
The kiss.
And it doesn't even, at that point, whether it's a kiss or whether it's a compliment or whatever, it's just the idea that you're kind of
creepy as fuck, right?
It's creepy. It's a bit weird.
Right.
And even you were doing it to grown-ups. It's just kind of shitty, right?
That would be Family Feud, right? That's adults.
Oh my God, yeah. And he was
Richard Donner. What's his name?
Richard Dawson.
Right. Donner he did the Spider
Hogan's Heroes,
Superman movies. Yeah, right.
Richard Donner. But yeah, he was totally of the same ilk. And I get it, man. Those guys are having drinks.
But these are little the 6-year-old girls or whatever. You're right.
Exactly.
No, so, but you're right. Creepy as fuck. I'm on board. The P word. Let's
keep that reserved for Jimmy Savile,
Oh, big time, right? Let's remember, and let's just again just be grateful. Take a moment here. I love the Uncle Bobby stuff because he was having relations with consenting adult women. These were the moms he was interested in, and they were interested in him. I didn't know he was 5 feet tall till right now. So,
it's funny. Meredith Cutting was kind of obsessed with people's heights, and I think that's a tall guy thing. When you're like, you kind of talk about people in terms of how tall they are.
Right. Like you're taller is better somehow. And as a 5'9" guy, I think that's bullshit.
It's kind of harsh. Yeah. I thought you were going to say the thing about Uncle Bobby for me that maybe keeps the interest going is this idea that he was this Shakespearean actor from the UK who ends up doing this dead end kids program in Scarborough. And I think nowadays there's all of these kids programs on TV and on YouTube, and people are kids want to grow up and be kids entertainers.
Right.
It's an absolute art now. But I kind of miss those days when it was seen as kind of a graveyard slot for these guys who once were treading the boards, in London.
All right, now I just need to, I promoted that I have the Roger Christian episode that I recorded in 2022, and I need to tell you right now, Ed Conroy, you need to listen to John Biner on Toronto Mic'd. John Biner came on my program, and we talked at length about everything. Another man who spent a lot of time in aging court.
Oh, yeah, man. I mean, bizarre. I would hope in future episodes we could talk more about that program. That's an absolutely insane thing that happened at aging court, right?
And Ziggy was one of those young women.
Well, and they exploited women, man. I mean, they had these young girls in there, and they did the PG cut, for the network, and then they did the X-rated version for the pay TV in America.
Right.
So they would do the same skit 2 times, and get the boobs
once
out
with boobs
for the
and once
second
without.
version.
Right. By the way, there's this is going to be a half an hour of me promoting Toronto Mic'd episodes, but there is an episode of Leona Boyd in which she discusses. She discusses the late great Bob Einstein, wearing a robe in her hotel room and trying to kind of convince her to, if she wants her own series, there's a path for her, and she was quite revolted by this scene. She tells this story on Toronto Mic'd.
Yeah, I mean, it all of these things coming to light now. I think we all agree that we suspected it. That's how it was, but it's just confirming all of these things. And of course, we're very glad that this kind of thing shouldn't be happening anymore.
Right.
And it's at least being talked about.
Right. Well, sunlight's a good antiseptic, right?
Totally. And on that note, I think we're going to play Little Bimbo, and the final note, I'll leave till after we're done, Bimbo.
Okay, so yes, I am going to play the Bimbo, the birthday clown here, and then you're going to have your final note. But when the singing policeman was singing about bridges, and you mentioned that the singing policeman is like the final survivor from this great series, this show we remember, I was thinking as I'm listening about the bridges, I'm like, is he going to reference the great survivor from Different Strokes? Because Todd Bridges is the survivor from that Different Strokes. And there's a bridge still with us and last person standing from a show I loved as a kid.
You got to get him on your show, man. I hope you're working on that.
I am. Get me Todd Bridges. All right, here is Bimbo, the birthday clown.
Go! Come on, Bimbo, please! Well done, and out comes Bimbo, and here's Bimbo with
Introducing Bimbo, the birthday clown, and the son of Happy.
Here he goes.
Bimbo, Bimbo, I'm the birthday clown, you know. Bimbo, Bimbo, here on Uncle Bobby's show. Bimbo, Bimbo, I would like to say.
Shot.
To you and you, a very happy birthday. Happy birthday, boys and girls.
There he is, Bimbo, the birthday clown.
Now that I remember.
Yeah, that's the one, right? But what was so crazy as well that came out of my conversation with Meredith was that Uncle Bobby, in addition to all these other things, being a bus driver and whatnot, he actually owned a bunch of preschools, like preschool classes.
I didn't know
and
that.
It was called Bimbo. And what really blew my mind is on another tangent that I've been working on some stuff about the history of Mr. Dress Up.
Wow.
He had a whole bunch of preschool.
Really?
Yeah. And it's like, obviously that whole world is very regulated now, and there's all kinds of rules and there's all kinds of money involved. But it seems like in the 70s, that was a wild west because kids started school, in JK, but if you wanted to send your kid somewhere, because you were working, it was kind of a new frontier. And so the idea that these guys were on TV, they were kind of trusted, like, oh, you send your kid to the Uncle Bobby preschool or the Mr. Dress-Up preschool. It's crazy. And again, it's something I would like to see further research on.
Look, dude, when you're finished with the Mark Daly project, okay, you need to get onto that. You got some more projects here. I think you're amazing. That's why you were the first inductee into the FOTM Hall of Fame. That's for a reason, brother.
Well,
okay?
Thank you, brother.
And I will say
it's an honor.
It's an honor. Are you wearing your? No, just kidding. You don't have a medallion. I got to send you one. But what is that shirt? Read it to me.
It's my boy Scarborough Spots does some apparel. This is my Scarborough hoodie.
Okay, because we'll do it later at the end. Because right now we're actually not live anywhere, but we're gonna do a screen cap. So make sure we can see that in a hoodie in the screen
100%.
cap. Absolutely love it. And what was it? Oh, okay, yeah. So the puppets I liked from Mr. Dress Up. I'm gonna read a couple of notes here before we. We just talked about Bimbo, the birthday clown, and it's going to segue nicely into Bimbo Jet. Okay, but Johnny O writes in, searching out Mr. Conroy is what got me into Toronto Mic'd in the first place. Crackers time is my favorite time of the year. Ho, ho, hold the payment. So Johnny O gets us, because that's a great Leon's
Johnny
reference.
O, Merry Christmas, man.
And I'll say Johnny O has appeared at a few TMLX events. So I've actually had the pleasure of meeting Johnny O in the flesh, and he rides a motorcycle. So he's a cool guy, and he's got great taste in podcasts, and he loves you too. So shout out to Johnny O. And it's not John Olerud. I know you think it's John Olerud, but it's not. What a sweet swing he had. And then here's another, just quickly, I recorded you know what? Actually, I should save this till after we talk about this Bimbo Jet, because this segues perfectly into some Dukes of Hazzard chat. But what can you tell me about this vinyl you found?
Well, as I was saying earlier, I'm a huge collector of old ephemera, and I love records. I spend a lot of time looking at old records at thrift stores and whatnot. And I'm always up for these weird things that aren't on any, website, or there's no information about them. And this one, I guess it was a Quebec compilation of like disco, like weird disco songs from the 70s. And it was called Bimbo Jet, and it had a cool cover, and it was 50 cents or something. So I'll take a shot on this, and I put it on. You're going to hear it in a second, and we'll see if you can recognize what it is, because I have since corroborated that it is what I think it is, but it was a bit of a mind blower when it.
Okay, is this the one? Because I have two here. Is this the one called Salado, or is it?
No, it's called Bimbo Jet.
Okay, let me play it, and we'll talk about this. Oh yeah, Lambada? What is this?
Think more Toronto.
So I'll bring it down so we can talk over it here.
Yeah, bring it down.
It sounds like the Forbidden Dance. Am I crazy? Lambada?
No,
no?
You're crazy, man.
I'm crazy.
No, can you go back to that first riff?
Okay.
That's the clue right there.
Okay, bear with
famous.
All right, we're going to go back to this. I'm going to turn it up, and I'm going to play this again. Okay, well, it sounds like porno music.
Well, you're close. Did you watch a lot of 80s sex comedies when you were a young lad?
Oh, sure. Yes, like Spring Break and Porky's, of course, and Revenge of the Nerds.
Okay, so do you remember the most famous one that was
Snow School, or I can't remember, but yeah, go on. Sorry.
The most famous one that was filmed in Toronto in the 80s had Kim Cattrall in it.
Well, that's Porky's. No? Because another one?
No, I guess that was a terrible name to say, because you're right. She is in Porky's.
Yeah, she's Lassie.
Yes. And Porky's is I bow down to the god of Porky's, and it's not Porky's. It's Police Academy.
Right, of course. Filmed down the street.
Okay. All right. So, do you remember there was like a raucous gay bar called the Blue Oyster?
100%. Of course. That's what this is from. I knew that. Yes, of course. Of course.
When we were talking about Blue Christmas or the Blue Oyster, got a play a little bit of that. But yes, so that's what that was.
Dude, I just saw a movie. I was going to save this for later, but sometimes I save things and I never get back to them. But I just watched in its entirety on Canopy, which is free with my library card, by the way, The Silent Partner.
Oh, classic.
And it's so very, very good. And I'm watching this thing, and I just loved it. And I loved how much, like, unabashedly Toronto it was. Like, this is like, we're going to go eat at Captain John's. Captain John's. We're eating there. You know, there's the
driving on the DVP.
The Silver Dollar is there. You're driving on the DVP.
You know, the Silver Dollar room is Blue Oyster.
Okay.
That's where that was filmed.
And we haven't even mentioned the fact that so much of this movie takes place in the Eden Center. Okay, like there it is.
John Candy working at a bank in the Eden Center.
In fact, I'm going to reference this later because I want to talk about John Candy in this role and how somebody wasn't there. But that's a teaser for later when we talk about some people we lost in 2022. But okay, so I'm watching The Silent Partner, and it's like so Toronto, and I'm like thinking of all the great Toronto movies from like the late 70s, early 80s, or whatever. And you got like Strange Brew. I'm thinking about, but Police Academy. I literally bike by the physical Police Academy is here now. It's Humber's South Campus here in New Toronto, but it's just right there. I could throw a rock, and that's where Commandant Lassard and the gang would, where it's right there, Ed. It's right here, and there's a scene with Hightower. I guess he's learning to drive, and he's in this small car. And I freeze framed it for my oldest, who's turning 21 soon, believe it or not. But I freeze frame it for him, and I'm going to go, and I won't dox myself, but I said, and this might be doing it, people are going to go back, but like, look at that intersection. Like, I can throw a stone from here and hit that intersection. Like, this is all lots of it.
Oh, no, it's crazy. And even as a kid, when I saw it on Super Channel for the first time, I remember recognizing those neighborhoods as being all Etobicoke. Yeah. It was like, wow. And they're passing it off, of course, as some unnamed American suburb, but you're not fooling anyone.
No. So. And it's kind of fun to think about that Police Academy is a stone's throw from Degrassi Junior High.
Right. Of course.
Which is the
it's iconic 80s
Vincent Massey daycare, I think, is what occupies the building now. But yes, love the reference to Police Academy. And at least one FOTM who comes out to events, James Edgar, was an extra in that movie. So shout out to James.
In part
Edgar.
1.
Yes, part 1.
Wow. Because there's all kinds of editions, right? And there's a one where where Tony Hawk and all those guys are skateboarding at the Eaton Center. I want to say that's part 4.
Okay.
I'm not up on my Police Academy mythology, but there's some really fascinating stuff there.
Well, Police Academy is one of those movies where when Steve Guttenberg left, it sort of became a different thing. Like it was, and at some point,
Hightower and Huckleberry's not going to carry
and Mahoney, remember Mahoney?
Right.
And who I liked when they added him was, of course, Bobcat Goldthwait was added.
Oh, yes.
And I think we all mimicked his speaking style for a while. I would do my Bob. I can't even do it now, but okay. There's another song here too. Before we get to the Dukes of Hazzard.
Well, you know what? We don't have to play that one. That one was the real, to me. It was cool to hear the Blue Oyster song, but there's this beautiful piece of music on this weird record. It sort of sounds like an Ennio Morricone thing.
Yeah,
it was really emotional. And I thought it might be maybe a good way to send off the year. We played at the end of the episode if we have time.
Okay, I'll park it.
Yeah, park it for a second. Are we going to go to your man Silverman? I know you're itching to drop that one.
Yeah, but I was gonna actually do a little tiny bit of Dukes first because it lets me give you some more praise here. So I recorded an episode of Toast Tuesday night, and every episode of Toast until Tuesday night featured Cam Gordon and Stu Stone. Okay. Stu's going to come up later, by the way. I pulled a clip. It's a big surprise for you if Stu Stone is a kid, and you'll know why when we get there. But for a variety of reasons, Stu and Cam couldn't do Toast, and I wanted Toast to continue. So I went and I wanted like replacement Stu and Cam, and my first thought was Coy and Vance Duke. Okay, because I, like yourself, I was a big Dukes of Hazzard guy. I'm one of those guys. I was an accidental racist because I kept bringing the Confederate flag in the house. Okay, don't tell my kids, but I used to play with the Confederate flag on the daily. Okay, so I'm thinking of Coy and Vance, and my mind couldn't remember how long they were around. Maybe I play this promo that you've sent me, and then I can play a couple of things I actually collected on this topic, and we can talk a little bit about Coy and Vance. Is that cool?
That sounds amazing.
And then I'll tell you, well, I'll say that before, I'll tell you now. I'm like, so why would I tease this? I don't have to tease everything. Who am I? Humble Howard Glassman? Okay. So I will just tell you that Rob Pruce, who was in my no, he wasn't in my basement, but he was on this Toast episode as Vance, I'd say. Rob Pruce was the keyboardist for the Spoons during their glory days. Okay, this guy's amazing keyboardist, and he absolutely loves the Christmas Crackers episodes of Toronto Mic'd. He cannot wait to listen to you, Ed Conroy, on Toronto Mic'd. He loves your stuff.
Wow, Bruce, absolute legend, man. I mean, I love the Spoons, but also it's funny. One of the records I found recently was a CFNY talent search, and I forget the guy's name, whoever won this talent search, but they put out an EP, and it's all it's Bruce on the keyboards on this thing.
Oh, and you can't remember the name.
I can't remember his bloody name. I was going to tweet Rob and say, this is amazing. It's from like 87 or something, but no, man.
Yeah, I think that would be like his honeymoon suite years. Like I feel like
definitely around that time. Yeah, for sure.
I love all this. And by the way, one of the things we discussed on Tuesday night, I know I'm all over the place, but it's my show, Ed, okay? On Tuesday night, we discussed the fact that Rob Pruce's first ever gig with the Spoons, because he's not a founding member, he was only like 15 when he joined the band, was at The Edge, which was a Gary's presentation, and it happened to be the night John Lennon was killed.
Oh, wow.
I know. So he's got this strange, bittersweet, that night is such a strange memory for him. But in the audience that night, he points out, is another FOTM, Paul Myers from the Gravelberries, who's Mike Myers' brother. So Paul Myers was at The Edge for that Spoons gig the night John Lennon was shot and killed.
You know, I know you hang out there, Mike. The big yellow board has interesting characters and interesting threads once in a while. There was a long one about the night Lennon died, and people remembering. I think it comes up every year, right? People, what were you doing when you heard John Lennon died?
Especially that crowd, because that's more of a boomer.
It's Zoomer.
It's a Zoomer, right?
Hardcore.
Shout out to Moses.
But, shout outs to all those guys too. There's interesting nuggets to be found, and I see you promote the applicable episodes on there. It's a good idea.
Yeah, once in a while those guys will be going off like, something about somebody, and I'll be like, okay, that person you're curious about, they literally just answered all my questions for 120 minutes in my basement.
Right,
Have
check
a listen. Here it is. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's always nice to see you on there. But I don't post there very often, but I did on the Lennon one because we've talked about this show before. Absolutely essential Toronto lore. The all night show with Chuck the security guard,
right,
only aired one season, right, from 1980 to 1981,
right,
and they were live to air the night that Lennon died. And of course, I've never seen this, but I've heard people talk about they were phoning. Like, I don't even know how they got these numbers, but they were literally phoning from Toronto in the studio to payphones, like random payphones in New York City.
Wow.
And talking to random people saying, can you give us an update of what's going on?
Wow.
And that's how far we've come, right? You think about breaking news, the way that it's covered now. I think that I would love to see that if it exists anywhere, but.
Wow. I love it when I have a guest on who was on the air that night, like periodically. I mentioned Humble Howard a few times, but Ingrid Schumacher, for example, like she was on the air on Chum FM the night John Lennon died. Like, just like, when you could actually like turn on a dime and just play Beatles records, right? Like today, I feel like everything would be so automated. It would be like, who can stop this automation so I can play Imagine?
Well, this is the great challenge going into this weekend, right? It's a crazy storm coming, and everybody's on holiday, and everything's automated Christmas music for 64 hours or whatever. And what are you going to do when the power goes out, right? People are going to hear the radio. They're going to hear Bing Crosby. They want to know when the power's coming back on.
No, good point, my friend. Good point. Here, so let's do, because I do absolutely want to get Blue, because we haven't been that blue, okay? But we have Blue coming, especially with the great Peter Silverman. But here is the promo for the Scab Dukes.
Friday, it's the all-new season premiere of The Dukes of Hazzard. With the return of Enos.
Same old Enos. Coy and Vance Duke.
Along with 2 new Dukes.
Somebody up there hates me.
And they could be too hot for Hazzard to handle. Then, a special preview of Bring 'em Back Alive takes you to Singapore, where the prize is gold and the price is danger for the intrepid Frank Buck.
To bring 'em back alive.
Following the season premiere of The Dukes of Hazzard, Friday.
Do you have any memory of Bring 'em Back Alive?
Only that it was like a complete ripoff of Raiders of the Lost Ark. It was meant to be like Raiders of the Lost Ark on a weekly basis. There was another show called Tales of the Golden Monkey that was the exact same thing that came on at the same season. That was from the people that made Magnum PI. But what is so funny to me, Mike, and I'm so glad I found that promo, is that, you know, they're in a real pickle. The main actors have walked out.
Tom Wopat and John Schneider. And John now manages the Blue Jays. How about that?
And, you know, the executives are shitting their pants. What are we going to do?
Right.
And what is their biggest selling point of the new season of Dukes? The return of Enos. Like a third tier character. Who nobody gives a shit about.
Right.
And then it's like, oh, and by the way, there's a couple of
two new Dukes. That's great.
And I remember, you know, I was a huge Dukes of Hazzard kid like you.
Loved it.
But what's funny is I think by that point, even before we got to the Scabs, I remember a very distinctly, which would have been in like 82 or 83, but I was a kid. My parents were out. And I had a babysitter at my house with me and my brother. And it was like one of the first times I was like, I guess I thought she was cute. And it was like, I was a kid, but I was like, oh, you know, this is a cool girl. And I was being very conscious of, you know, trying to be cool, like not to be an idiot. And it was a night that Dukes of Hazzard was on. And she wanted to watch something else. I can't remember.
The Love Boat.
or Dynasty or some shit like that.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, oh no, we're gonna watch Dukes of Hazzard. I remember her looking at me going, oh, that's like a baby show. And it just fucking slayed me.
Yeah.
I was like, all right, I'm done with this. Like I'm not going out like that. I was like, oh yeah, let's watch Love Boat. And I was done with Dukes, but I definitely remember the playground being a buzz about who are these,
like, because they were
Coy and Vance.
It was another brunette and another blonde guy, like, so you had the same hair color and they were good looking guys or whatever, but they were like they weren't even like Kirkland brand. They were like just the Yellow Label. Like this was just the
they were
Dukes.
Byway. They were ciphers, man.
They were Byway.
And watching that stuff now, it's kind of insane that even in the 80s, that the television executives thought people were so stupid,
right?
They would have just accepted that. Oh, you know what? This is the General Lee is still doing tricks, and the police cars are getting bashed up. So who cares? This is a different couple of guys. But certainly Wopat. I mean, Wopat was in Django Unchained. Like he's an awesome actor,
and he's got a new album because I got the PR email about the new Tom Wopat album. Like he's still recording music.
You know, and John Schneider, you know, to his credit, very charming guy, doesn't age at all.
Right.
So
he's like the John Stamos of the Dukes or whatever. Just
it's a very hilarious era, and it seems to come up a lot in, like you said, with the. People reference the new Dukes like they reference New Coke,
right?
Or, you know, weird things that happened in kind of the early and mid 80s where people were taken to be fools.
Right.
And ultimately the consumer said, no, I'm not going to accept this.
Right.
Like I want my OG.
I love it. I actually pulled, so the very first, I guess the opening of that first episode of Coy and Vance. Let's just listen to a bit of this.
Uncle Jesse, you know, after 6 years, I don't think I'm going to recognize my own cousins.
Oh, I think you'll recognize him.
Now do you recognize him? Daisy, Uncle Jesse.
Hey, Prince. How are you?
This sure beats any port I ever seen in the Merchant Marine.
Sam, we're beginning to wonder if you'd ever get here.
If I'd have known we was going to get a welcome like this, we would have come back years ago. Ain't that right, Coy?
Shoot, we never would have left. Hey, Coy.
Hey, Uncle Jesse, how you doing? Oh, you're great.
Daisy, you ain't changed one bit in 6 years.
What do you mean I ain't?
Well, maybe your clothes shrunk a little.
Coy, I still don't know how to take you.
Uncle Jesse, you still look like you could take us over your knee and pound some sense into us.
Well, that would depend on how much sense you needed pounding into you. It's good to have you both home.
It's good to be here. Matter of fact, on the way over here, we ran in that same old cooter wearing his same old hat.
He's been wearing that hat for years.
How about old Boss and Roscoe? Are they still up to their same old dirty tricks?
Oh, worse than ever. Now that Bo and Luke are gone, they're going to blame everything on y'all.
Well, it wouldn't be Hazard without it. I reckon we can still give them two a run for the money.
I know you're itching to give them two a run for their money, but we got a farm to take care of. Now, do you remember where Reed's Implement House is over in Capital City?
Yes, sir.
Well, why don't you just run by there and pick up some tractor parts I got ordered?
Want to go along for the ride, Cousin Daisy?
Sure. I'll see you later, Uncle Jesse.
Sure.
Okay.
Want to ride in front with me? Sure. You're riding up front, cuz.
Are they hitting on their cousin? Okay, so I could just listen to that. I got more, but it's just even that little clip is problematic. Like, forget the fact the Confederate flag is there on top of the General Lee, but just.
Well, it's funny too, Mike, because I don't know if you remember, but Dukes of Hazzard was ubiquitous for a long time. Like, it was on all the time. It was on repeats all the time in the 80s.
Of course, yeah.
But then I gotta say, like around 89, 90, it went into the black hole. And for a long time, it was not released on videotape. It was not repeated. And a lot of people, I remember in the early days of the internet, like when it was called CompuServe, there was people talking about Dukes of Hazzard. Like, do you remember that? Like, was that real? And then it came back on a channel. I don't even know what
the
it's
Nashville
called now.
Network.
Yeah, TNN.
I remember
the Nashville
it. Yeah,
Network.
when it came back.
So
yeah.
Do you remember that was a huge.
It went from the Nashville Network to the
Spike.
But first it was the National Network, like they kind of similar.
No, then it became Spike.
Then it became
was like
Spike.
Wrestling and Star Trek.
Right.
But yeah, the Nashville Network brought back Dukes. And the reason I remembered it, I was in my first year of university. I was smoking a lot of weed, and Dukes of Hazzard was suddenly on again every night. And so it was like, wow, this is wild. And I remember tuning in, as a I guess 20-year-old or 19-year-old, and seeing that through the lens of marijuana and age. And like you said, it's just totally problematic for so many reasons. Never mind the Confederate flag, just innuendo and just awkward stuff. But what is so crazy because it contrasts that with it was like a family show, right? Like it was like the Waltons.
Dude, I had the sheets. Okay, I still I've kept on to the pillowcase because I slept on Daisy Duke's face for years. I had the Dukes of Hazzard. Yeah, I had the Dukes of Hazzard sheets. I love that show so much. Okay, you mentioned weed, so let me do this. I mentioned Rob Pruce Loves You. He was on Toast, but so was Bob Willett. Bob Willett was in my basement. And Bob Willett, at least one person tweeted at me that Bob Willett sounded a lot like Andy Palalis from Canna Cabana. So if you are looking for cannabis or cannabis accessories, Canna Cabana will not be undersold, and there's over 140 locations across this country. In fact, Andy and I are scheduling the edibles episode for late January, and quite literally at the beginning of the edibles episode, yours truly will take an edible, and then we'll talk and we'll do our thing, play some music, and I will report back periodically on how I'm feeling. How does that sound?
That sounds amazing. I would pay to see a Toronto Mike episode where you take whoever you want, give them edibles and watch some Dukes of Hazzard.
Oh my God.
Just do a live commentary.
That'll be TMLX 12, I think. I would love it. I love the Dukes, and shout out to Coy and Vance. Where are they now? I have no idea. Okay, so moving on because there's a lot of ground to cover here. Oh, you know what? I say moving on, but I can never really move on from the Dukes of Hazzard because I need to revisit a greatest hit. One of my very favorite finds by not Ray Fiennes or Joseph Fiennes. One of my great finds from Retro Ontario is this PSA that haunted me as a child. Absolutely haunted me. And I think it haunted me because the kid in this ad playing with his broken General Lee, that was me, Ed. That was me.
Dad, can you fix this?
Sure, buddy.
Go to bed.
Now!
Are you sure your drinking isn't hurting anyone? Something to think about from the Ontario Ministry of Health.
Good find, Ed. Wow.
Hardcore. You know, that one always comes up because, like you said, everybody of a certain age at that time felt like they were that kid because we all had General Lee toys.
Right.
And whether your father was mean or drunk or not, we could all empathize with that kid. And I think that was whoever came up, I have yet to determine who actually wrote the script for that, but whoever it was, I hope they got a big raise because that one hit hard.
It hit hard,
still
man.
Does.
Right between the eyes. Still does, absolutely. All right, this is Blue Christmas Crackers, Volume 5. We promised some swearing. Do you have anything to say before I play the late, great Peter Silverman?
Let's get a little blue, Mike.
Here we go.
I'm Peter Silverman, and we're out here looking for a demented killer that's been terrorizing the streets of Toronto. Not only that, but his relationship with goats and sheep is somewhat questionable. We're going to get some answers.
Hey, Silverman, what are you doing here?
Who are you hiding in there, cock?
I'm not hiding anybody.
You are a lying, senile motherfucker. You're hiding the cable killer. I know that. And I want him. Yeah, fuck you. I'm gonna kill you, you camel fucker. I'm gonna kill you. You piece of shit. I'm gonna kick your fucking ass.
If you're alive after this, Bob, it'll be a fucking miracle.
Good evening. If you're seeing us at home right now, you're one of the lucky few. The majority of cable subscribers in the GTA have been experiencing interruptions in their service. Stay tuned to City TV as we cover the unfolding story of the cable killer.
Wow.
Yeah, so, you know, we've talked a lot before about the Speaker's Corner, Christmas tapes.
Right.
You know, City TV, bless them, Chum City, not only running this unbelievable organization that provided hours of quality entertainment, they knew how to do AV at a Christmas party.
Right.
And that comes from a Christmas tape where they just basically did this whole fake episode of City Pulse using all of the regular reporters. Just full of cussing and in jokes that we'll never understand.
But I love that it, you know, somehow found its way to you and now me, and here we are airing it in 2022. Like, it's going to live forever, man.
Well, I felt like Silverman passed last year, and I know we spoke about him a little bit on the Christmas Crackers, but what a legend. But part of the fun of what I do, Mike, as you know, is find these old bits of news and bits of people, and so even after they're gone, it's like fresh Silverman. It just adds to the legend, right? It buttresses the legend of Silverman, and what a hardcore guy. Like, just nothing more needs to be said.
Did I tell you I had brunch with a gentleman who claims he's the nephew of the guy that Peter Silverman, you know, grabs by the scruff of the neck or whatever and says, "Watch it, buddy." Yeah. Like,
no.
So it's like, I was so fascinated. And that's another great Retro Ontario find, is when I could finally hear the audio that was just bouncing around my cranium for so many years. Peter Silverman saying, "Watch it, buddy."
Oh man. I mean, that again, what was funny was when it was missing, I had it in my mind in a certain way. And then when I found it, I realized it probably only aired, you know, for a couple of months on the promo, but then it was gone and it was something else. But it clearly resonated, you know, with you and with me and with other people. And that's what I love is putting that stuff back out in circulation, you know?
Absolutely. Now, I want to let the FOTMs listening know that we're going to borrow a page from the Mark Weisblot handbook here. And very, very soon, we will talk about a few people we lost in 2022. Shout out to Ridley Funeral Home. And on that note, I would be remiss if I didn't tell you that just yesterday, Brad Jones from Ridley Funeral Home came over and we recorded a wonderful episode of his podcast, Life's Undertaking, in which he played his 3 favorite Christmas songs of all time, and then we shared stories and reminisced about it, and it was a wonderful, wonderful episode. So if you want to hear more of me and a lot of Brad Jones and some great music that Brad loves, that is the latest episode of Life's Undertaking from Ridley Funeral Home. Ed Conroy, this recording's long, and I'm happy to play it all. This might be a perfect time for you to get a pee break in there, but you need to give it a little context before I press play. The cable guy.
Yeah, I mean, the segue from the cable killer
yeah.
and the cussing seems perfect. People are either going to remember what this is or they're going to think that we've lost the plot. Either one is fine. But no, let's play it and we'll re-adjourn in, 15 minutes? And,
so in all seriousness, I have listened to this. I'm going to play it in its entirety, but I'm going to actually leave my post for a moment, but I'll be back before this ends. So if you're wondering where I went, but let's get this going and then let's take care of some business and we'll meet back here in 4 minutes.
Sounds good.
Where's the fucking service, you cocksuckers? I pay for the fucking shit. Why don't you fucking bring it on? Sick of you bunch of fucking bastards. Where's the fucking cable? I've been paying you sluts, fucking assholes all along, and I got no fucking TV. Jesus fucking Christ, what the fuck do you want for fuck all? I've been phoning all these goddamn cocksucking fucking numbers you got in this fucking phone book, and they're all busy. Well, my cable's fucked, and you're gonna hear from me anyway. You bunch of goddamn cocksucking fucking bastards. I don't want to sell fuck all. I want to watch fucking TV. You cocksucking fucking hoors, you got all these fucking numbers in the goddamn cocksucking fucking phone book, and they're all fucking busy. I'm a working man, I pay your cocksucking fucking bill. Why in the name of Jesus goddamn cocksucking fucking Christ can you not supply me the goddamn motherfucking orange fucking goddamn cocksucking fucking service? Hello, you Dogan-faced motherfucking cocksucking whore and slut. Goddamn, by the Jesus fucking goddamn slut fucking bastards. Where's the fucking cable? Paying for the fucking shit and I ain't fucking getting it. Get out of here, you bunch of fucking bastards. Can't watch Automake with his fucking TV. Where's the service, you bunch of goddamn cocksucking fucking bastards? I hate paying for something I don't have. I cannot watch your Automag magazine if I do not have the service. I've been phoning all the other numbers that's been ringing busy. This is the only number I've been able to get a ring from. So where's the cocksucking goddamn orange slut by the Jesus fucking service? Me again, motherfuckers. I have no fucking cable. You bunch of goddamn whore and slut, fucking overpaid cocksuckers are doing fuck all for what I'm paying you. Jesus Christ, you ought to try to do what I do for a fucking living. Hello, motherfuckers. My cable's back on. Thank you very much.
Ed Conroy, please tell those of us in the dark exactly what we just listened to.
Had you never heard that before?
I don't remember it.
Okay, so that to me was like an early viral hit, if you will, because I heard that off of somebody had that on a cassette tape in the late 80s at a party, and it was like, oh yeah, you gotta check this out, and it got passed around, and other people throughout the years would have that on a cassette tape, and then finally it ended up on YouTube, of course. But what's hilarious about it, I sort of investigated it a bit this last year. It came back in my mind because I don't know who's your internet service provider.
Bell 5.
Well, there you go. I'm Mr. Rogers, and I don't know if you remember July the 8th of this year.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
But the dog was royally farked on July the 8th. And I thought about that guy back in the 80s, just losing it because he couldn't watch
Cable
Automag. But basically it was this poor old guy it was from Kingston, Ontario.
Wow.
And it was CableNet was the sort of Rogers of Kingston at the time. And the guy was the producer of Automag magazine, which was one of those programs you might remember on Channel 10, where it would just be pictures of old shitty cars.
Right.
And it would say, like, this is $500, like, call Frank at this number if you want to buy this car.
Yeah.
And so clearly there was an outage, and this guy was absolutely furious that he couldn't watch his Automag show. And he left 42 distinct vile messages on this poor channel's answering phone and answering machine. And so this guy took the tape, and it was then edited. There's multiple versions with different songs. I think the Beethoven is the funniest one, but yeah, it's just it's like I said, it came to mind when July the 8th happened, and it also it's just way before YouTube, way before social media, before the internet. It was something that you would hear at parties, and cool people had that cassette of that guy. And it was just the most vulgar thing. Right?
Love it.
That I'd heard.
And it is Blue Christmas Crackers Volume 5.
It's
blue.
And I was kind of like, I didn't coordinate this with you. I was like, oh, for sure Mike will know about this, because
you know what? I should know about it.
It's so Canadian, and like so the language, like Dogan-faced. That's like such an Ontario, like anti-Catholic slur. You wouldn't hear that anywhere else, but I think this thing is like got a life of its own. So
love it.
Anyways, hopefully somebody out there.
No, listen,
like,
that's what this is, man. Christmas crackers. You don't know what you're gonna get. Like, it's a dumping ground for some found audio, some classic stuff, and just bringing some of this stuff to light. That maybe if you missed that, then now you know. Like now when you hear it, you have some kind of frame of reference or whatnot. So we are going to pay tribute to some fallen soldiers, if you will. I just want to shout out a couple more sponsors very quickly. One is Raymond James Canada. They got a great podcast called the Advantaged Investor Podcast. It features insights from leading professionals, providing valuable perspective for Canadian investors who want to remain knowledgeable, informed, and focused on long-term success. Hosted by Chris Cooksey. Subscribe now, and while you're subscribing to great podcasts, the Yes, We Are Open podcast, award-winning podcast from Moneris, telling the stories of Canadian small businesses and their perseverance in the face of overwhelming adversity. Everyone can go right now to yesweareopenpodcast.com subscribe. Hosted by FOTM Al Grego. Al Grego, I believe, has been to 11 of 11 TMLX events. And, well, that's pretty damn awesome. So, who's in that group? Michael Lang's in that group. We lost Rush Mike from that group. But Rush Mike will be 11 for 12, I'm sure, in the spring. So, I digress here. How do you want to preface this, Mr. Conroy? Maybe you can just let me know when you're ready for me to play some audio.
Well, I already felt like I was stepping on Mark Weisblatt's turf here because, there's nobody better at doing reminiscences of fallen soldiers, as you say.
Nobody does
man, the last
better.
couple days, obviously I'm a big music guy, and I was born in the UK, and the UK was a second home to me, and two like major forces in that scene died this week. So I thought, we can talk. Obviously, it's sad and it sucks, but their songs are being played right now, and they're songs of hope. So it's a great way to celebrate their lives. So yeah.
Let's listen, and I'll bring it down, and we'll talk a little more about who we lost.
To enjoy myself first. It's good to be wise when you're young, 'cause you can only be young but for once. Enjoy yourself and have lots of fun. So good at life, my friend, and it's never done. Enjoy.
Enjoy yourself, the Specials.
Mr. Terry Hall of the Specials died on Tuesday. And, the Specials, I don't know if you were into ska or into that whole
this
scene.
Is the second wave, right? This is the, with the, like I was into it casually. Like there were some big jams that, like Madness and all this stuff that you couldn't miss.
Yeah, they were, I mean, I guess first wave would have been Jamaica, but yeah, that was the Madness, the Selector, Specials. And I remember, because I grew up in Scarborough, there was a lot of dudes, like older dudes, older black dudes that were into ska that would play at our dances, like when we were kids, would play Ghost Town and the Specials. And I think, again, being a little bit older now and looking at the UK at that time and how much there was just racial strife and just a lot of heavy stuff going on. And the Specials were this band that were, they were like half white, half black. And they were singing about unity and about good times and bad times. And I remember distinctly thinking there's nothing like that here. Like, there wasn't any Canadian or American band that I knew of that was as, into that sound and that scene. And then I remember, too, seeing them on the New Music, because they would play the Police Picnic, I think, in one of the Police Picnics the Specials played. And so, yeah, Mr. Terry Hall, very young guy. I think he was in his 50s.
No, 63 maybe, but still very young to leave us. I think he's in his 60s, early 60s. Far too young, regardless. But
and that song, it always got me, because they were kids when they were singing that song. But the theme of that, enjoy yourself, it's later than you think.
Right.
What a
Right.
great vibe.
Wow. Okay, I'm going right into the next jam, and then I'll pull out and we'll talk about someone else we lost. Sounds amazing, man.
Yeah, man. Summer '96. That was a big track.
So we lost Martin Duffy.
Martin Duffy of Primal Scream, Scotland's finest acid house outfit. Again, maybe to some people that is an obscure name, but Train Spotting. That's the title track from the Train Spotting soundtrack. It was huge, summer '96, and Primal Scream as a band, as a Scottish band, absolutely incredible. Started out as kind of alternative rock and then got into acid house. The most famous album is probably Screamadelica, which was this sort of fusion of acid house music and alternative rock. Played a lot of that, heard a lot of that on CFNY back in the day. But for my money, their greatest album was from 1997. It was called Vanishing Point, and Train Spotting is also on that album. And it's sort of a concept album based on a American film called Vanishing Point, which incidentally our buddy Bob Segarini did some songs on the soundtrack of the original Vanishing Point when he was in a band called the Whackers.
Of course.
But it's this idea, Mike, I'm fascinated by this idea of people in other countries that absorb the culture and sort of do their version of it. And it's like these Scottish guys that are into like rock and reggae music and dub, and watching these old American films and then doing like sort of a faux soundtrack to that. And Martin Duffy was the keyboardist for Primal Scream, and he was absolutely the most talented guy and respected. And he died, I think 12 hours after Terry Hall. And it was like that 1-2 punch. If you're like into UK music, I'm sure our boy Rob Pruce, he knows, man. That was heavy shit. So
here, I'll put a title together here. So your Port Perry buddy is Hayden Christensen, right?
Right.
So he plays Anakin Skywalker, who is being mentored by Obi-Wan Kenobi, who is being played by Ewan McGregor, who stars in a film called Train Spotting.
Good work there, radio host. Thanks, Jerry.
Man, oh man. Okay, I actually have a clip I pulled here to remember somebody else, but I'm going to before I play it, I'm just going to bring down this fantastic Primal Screen Jam. I mentioned earlier, I watched The Silent Partner, and I loved it very much. And there's John Candy's in there. Hey, John Candy. This was an early, this is like 78 or something. So there's John Candy, but he's not with somebody like previously. I feel like we would have seen him with a guy named Lawrence Dane, right? Wouldn't it be John Candy and Lawrence Dane together?
Find the Lady, yeah.
Right. So just there he is. No Lawrence Dane, but we're going to talk about Lawrence. But before I do that, I've been mentioning some new FOTMs from 2022. One is Cynthia Dale. And when Cynthia Dale came on Toronto Mic'd, we played a clip from one of her movies. It also happened to feature my good friend, FOTM Hall of Famer, like yourself, Ed, Stu Stone. So I'm just going to play this clip, and then we're going to talk about Lawrence. Here we go.
I'm tired, darling. Don't you think you've had enough? It's late.
Just a bit more. Okay, Mom?
Okay.
Now let's fetch the guns and things, said Huck. No, Huck, leave them there. They're just the tricks now we have to go to robbing. We'll keep them there all the time and we'll hold our order. Mom, how do you say ORGIES?
What? What are you reading?
Tom Sawyer.
Oh.
Now, how do you say that word?
Orgies. Just orgies. Now hurry up and finish that page, okay?
And we'll hold our orgies. Mom, what's an orgies?
Do you remember what I told you about a man and woman being in love and making babies?
Yes.
Well, an orgy is people doing that without the love that makes it so nice.
How come Tom Sawyer's gonna have an orgies?
I think he's talking about something the pirates are gonna do.
Do you have an orgies, Mom?
No. In fact, your mom hasn't had a lot of anything lately.
So there's a clip from a movie called Heavenly Bodies. Cynthia Dale and her on-screen son, my friend Stu Stone.
That was a perennial Super Channel classic, Heavenly Bodies.
Was that like that was our attempt at like a flash dance? Is that fair to say? Or?
I think so. It was sold abroad as much riskier than it was. I think might have been Weisblatt posted the German like teaser like on YouTube. It shows that how it was sort of sold to Europeans, and it was much racier. I mean, it's clearly not an appropriate movie. How did Stu Stone survive that? I mean, my goodness. I remember him being a kid in like Wayne and Schuster specials and things.
Yes.
But talking about orgies with Cynthia Dale, that's hardcore.
And that movie was directed by Lawrence Dane.
The one and only picture he directed.
Wow. So tell us a bit about Lawrence. We have, of course, discussed him with Mark Weisblatt, but for those who maybe didn't want to invest the 3 hours in that episode of 1236 Toronto Mike, who are listening to Christmas Crackers, who is Lawrence Dane?
Well, Lawrence Dane, I mean, he's the epitome of a working Canadian actor. He was in everything, Night Heat, Littlest Hobo, My Secret Identity, that level of television, but also in tons of Hollywood films. He was just a working actor. And so when there was productions in town, he would get a gig. He only directed, that one film. It would have been great. I hope somebody out there somewhere interviewed him and asked why he didn't pursue directing after Heavenly Bodies. Like, it's kind of a weird one-off. But he did like commercials. I recently found, I'm actually going to put it on the Retrontario YouTube channel shortly, a commercial he did for like Shreddies. It's so weird, like just random early 80s Shreddies commercial with Lawrence Dane. But yeah, like you said, he was John Candy's partner in this series of films where they played policemen. There was Find the Lady, and then I always forget what the second one is called. But it's this great dynamic of he's kind of the straight man policeman and Candy's like the wacky policeman. And there's one, and I don't know if it's the first or second one, where Isaac Hayes is like this crazy drugged out like guy, and they're interrogating him in this warehouse. And yeah, if you're into SCTV and you're into John Candy and that whole scene, Lawrence Dane was sort of, you know, a Candyman before his time. And so again, he passed away this year, and I'm sure Weisblatt's memorial was the best because not a lot of people picked up on it, right? It just sort of went under the radar.
Well, that's where you and Mark Weisblatt come in handy, and that's why I'm actually missing my daily 1236 newsletter. And
yeah, man.
I think October was my last issue, but the good news is that Weisblatt is scheduled to be in this basement next week.
Oh, okay.
So live on the mic, I can find out what's going on with my 1236 newsletter.
Well, you know what? I know this had nothing to do with him, but I felt as a viewer or as a subscriber to his ethos that the newsletter ended and there was sort of, okay, we're working on the next, you know, the 2.0. And then Twitter got fucked sideways. And it was like, it just felt like a big sea change of everything.
Yeah, it was just the one. That's a 1-2 punch that we were dealing with. Although Twitter, as you know, fucked up as it is, it's still fully functional for me. Like I'm actually going down of that ship. Like I can still follow you and the people I want to follow.
Well, and likewise, I appreciate that you just do your thing on Twitter. What I can't abide by is I 1236 avoided this as well, is the number of people. They just for the last like month and a half is all of their content is whining about Twitter. Like fuck off. It's just a channel. Like just do your content.
Right. Don't fall if you don't like what somebody
you don't
tweets.
care about what you think about it.
Right.
Like if YouTube starts to go down, I will go down like the band on the Titanic playing my song as it goes down. I won't start saying, well, this sucks that it's going down. You know?
Right. No, I know. So I basically like, I'm kind of popping my popcorn and watching the show. Like it's kind of fascinating to me. What does Elon do next and what's happening here and what ridiculous poll is it binding? Like I'm just kind of enjoying the show or whatever. In the meantime, if there's somebody, now he's not back on Twitter, but if somebody like, I don't know, Donald Trump goes back on Twitter, and if I don't want to read what Donald Trump is tweeting because it triggers me or upsets me, there's this wonderful function in Twitter. I'm going to let the world know about it right now. There's two actual wonderful functions. One, you can block this tweeter and you'll never see their tweets, even if somebody retweets it. You'll just never see a Donald Trump tweet. The other one that I've been utilizing lately, not only for users, but also for like certain keywords, like if the word Wordle is in a tweet, I don't see it. I use the mute capability like crazy. Okay, so if every day you're tweeting your Wordle stuff, good for you, but I've chosen to opt out of that, for example, and I don't see any of that. And it's empowering as a user that I can kind of curate the content I see, and I'm feeling fine. It's functional. I get to I'm enjoying it. You're there, I'm there.
But the 1236 vacuum is noticeable to me.
Yes, I agree. And I know he was very public on my show about how St. Joseph's Media and him, they parted ways, I think at the end of September or something like that. And then it's not a coincidence that the newsletter sort of went on hiatus. Now he's still got his contact list, and I think he's been spending some time, he's going to explain next week on Toronto Mike what the heck is going on. But Mark's been like planning that next move, like where does he go from here? And I think he's been pondering that for the last couple of months. And I'm hopeful in early 2023 that we get some more Weisblatt.
Well, yeah. I mean, the world needs more Weisblatt. Give him my best, please, when he's down there.
Oh yeah, well he's a big Retro Ontario fan. You know that. We're like the triumvirate here. Now, please, before we say goodbye here with some lowest of the low, Tommy Ambrose. What say you about Tommy?
Well, my good friend Tommy Ambrose, sort of, I think, a legend up here, just did an incredible amount of work in the music industry and the television industry. I'm hoping maybe one of your listeners might be able to help us with this. A bit of a question here. He did an absolutely wonderful album a few years ago of Frank Sinatra covers, and it's called Songs Sinatra Taught Me. And it's actually available if you still have a CD player. You can buy it on Amazon. You know, it exists, right? You can play it there.
Right.
And he, you know, he's old school. I mean, he's very old school. And you might know this on XM radio. There is a Sinatra digital channel, of course, right? And obviously they play mostly Sinatra, but they also play a lot of other bands or other artists covering Sinatra. And so he has been asking me for a long time, Eddie, can you help me get onto that channel? Because, you know, of course he should be on there. The versions I've heard, the covers I've heard are nowhere close to the quality, absolute quality covers that Tommy did of Frank's songs. But it's insane in 2022 trying to get in touch with a human being at XM. It's serious.
Right.
There is only like a portal where you have to upload stuff and link to stuff, and it's totally crazy. I've investigated it. I've tried to help him, but I feel like it would be the greatest gift anybody could give to a fellow Canadian superstar. How do you get something into the hands of programming at XM Radio? So on that note, yeah, he put out a Christmas album many, many years ago in the 1970s. And that was his heyday, and lovely, lovely album. But this song I sent you, I love it because it was written by Gary Gray. And Gary Gray also wrote the lyrics of People City, which that was their big jam, right?
Right. And you did that great documentary on that.
And thank you kindly for remembering that. But those guys were the Lennon and McCartney of the advertising world. And they did this Christmas song, and it got a lot of airplay in the 70s, but it's kind of fallen off the map, and it's very old school, but it's a nice way to send out 2022 and good vibes for 2023, and give a little prayer.
Love with respect for one another. We must start as a friend before ending as a brother. Give a prayer for Christmas, a simple, simple prayer. Pray to make us better, to make us more aware. Pray for understanding with a truth that can be heard. A language so full of love, you hear the meaning and not the word. Give a prayer for Christmas, a simple, simple prayer. Pray to make us better, to make us more aware.
Okay, FOTMs, we have our marching orders from Retro Ontario's own Ed Conroy. We have to get a contact at Sirius XM. We got to see what we can do to get Tommy Ambrose on the Sinatra channel with his great covers of Frank Sinatra. This is a great Christmas song that I've never heard before, Ed. This is great.
Yeah, man. I mean, Tommy was all about the good times and the Merry Christmases.
Yeah, and he's had a few Merry Christmases. And on that note, Christmas Crackers Volume 5, just off the charts great, brother. I can't wait till next December when we do Volume 6. I love these episodes, and I love you, man.
I love you too, brother. I really hope that I see you before that because, man, it's been far too long.
Make us more aware.
And that brings us to the end of our 1,174th show. You can follow me on Twitter. I'm at Toronto Mike. Ed Conroy is at Retrontario. What a great follow he is. His YouTube channel is like the greatest YouTube channel in the history of YouTube, so subscribe to that too. Our friends at Great Lakes Brewery are at Great Lakes Beer. Thank you, Great Lakes, for the Octopus Wants to Fight. Palma Pasta is at Palma Pasta. I owe Ed a lasagna. Sticker U is at Sticker U. Moneris is at Moneris. Raymond James Canada are at Raymond James CDN. Recycle My Electronics are at EPRA_Canada. Ridley Funeral Home are at Ridley FH. Canna Cabana are at Canna Cabana _. And Sammy Cohn Real Estate is at Sammy Cohn, KOHN. If you have any real estate questions whatsoever for Sammy Cohn, one of the top realtors in Toronto, you can write him sammy.cohn, KOHN, at properlyhomes.ca. See you all tomorrow for the Festivus episode with my friend Elvis.
And I play this guitar just the best that I can.